couple. So right now I'm actually going to be finishing the painting that I started earlier today with the Pixie magical chalk paints that my mom launched. So here's the colors I'm using. Oh, here, hold on, let me show you all of these first. And don't judge, my studio is really messy right now. All right, so finishing this, and colors I'm using, blue Java banana. So these are all from my mom's paint line, Paint Pixie. She's got brushes that are good for furniture painting, walls, and regular art projects. So blue Java banana, we're gonna do Caribbean cooler. There is some purple in there. I've been on a purple kick the last couple days. Purple's been coming through every time I channel. So we got figgy pudding. We're gonna do some cream puff. And then this metallic. So that's what we're using. I was telling how my mom has a paintbrush company. She launched paints last week. Paint Pixie brushes. We started off as interior designer, like specialty paint murals. I loved kids' rooms. Kids' rooms were my jam. You could just give me my headphones in a few hours and I'll get everything knocked out in a day. I used to do like airbrushing, all of that. So it's very nice to see, because this was like 15, 16 years ago, and the market, you know, Pinterest wasn't even there yet. It wasn't, everything we had to do was building our business the homegrown, organic, old school way, word of mouth, you know, getting in with the interior designers, having a good referral network. But like, dang, all the stuff I see on Pinterest now, I'm like, dude, we were doing that kind of stuff, but it was just, we were ahead of, you know, before social media. So I always do like, I usually do my kids' rooms and stuff like that, but not at this house. People would have like these really, really high up ceilings, like 25-foot ceilings. And we would have to, you know, I'm a perfectionist, so I would like, you know, try to cut all the way in the corner up to the ceiling line so it's perfect. But like doing that while you're on the top of like a ladder that's just leaning against the wall, and my mom's just at the bottom, like, hey, you go up. So I had to learn to paint and be on the ladder and face my heights. Sometimes we had scaffolding, but sometimes it was just that painter's ladder, that really tall one. So did that for a few years. It all started because I was like working off a debt that I owed my mom, because it was back in like text message days before they had unlimited, and I accidentally worked up a whole big ass bill. So she's like, all right, come work with me. Come, I'm gonna teach you how to paint. So my mom, the Paint Pixie, Josie, she taught me how to faux finish. We did like, she took me to Ohio to a modern master's class so I can learn how to use their products and do all their specialty finishes. And then I worked with some specialty artists that were well known at the time here in the area in Vegas for airbrushing and different plaster finishes. That was really, really cool, because although, you know, we were doing plaster on walls and stuff, it translated to incorporating it into canvas designs. And like, you know, you can get a whole canvas put out, and this doesn't have to be it, right? After it's all dry, you can mix up some plaster and you can hit the corners, you can add more texture, you can do, you know, build up, and then you can wash everything and do like a gel or wax over it and do highlights, and you can like, you know, just really go to town on how detailed you want your work to be. You know, it's layers and it's a process though. So I think we're gonna go over this, the gold afterwards. So I'm not too concerned with covering it right now. So some of the cool things that we got to do. So we worked with, we did a lot of model homes. We worked with some interior designers. So we did like D.R. Horton, Kimball Hill, American Pacific, Standard Pacific, something like that. Like all the big names. It was really cool. My stepdad is in the cabinet business, and so, you know, cabinets, custom cabinets, and like people who spend, you know, money renovating their house and fixing it up, and you know, it all just fit hand in hand for the work that we were doing. And now looking back, it all tied in because that was just the basis for us to learn how to paint, but also what a painter needs and what would make it easier for tools on the job. Because like, we used to sit there all the time and paint, and I'm like, man, you know, it'd be really freaking cool, a brush that did this, or a brush like this, or a brush that could cover and coat. And especially when it came to refinishing furniture and cabinets and stuff like that, having a good brush that doesn't freaking leak bristles all over the place and leave that shit in your paint that you have to like go back and wax and buff that shit out later. Oh my gosh, worth their weight in gold. You have to have good tools when you're working on projects. You can't do cheap little Home Depot brushes and that you're there, you know, you're over here, someone's paying you thousands of dollars to refinish their stuff, or you're trying to refinish a piece of yours and you're over here scooping bristles out of your shit. Like, you know, sorry, I cuss a lot. So with that, it was a learning process because we totally learned like our needs, our flow. What was really cool was she taught me so well that to imitate her and copy her style of painting, like for the walls and the faux finishing stuff, that when you walked into the room, you couldn't tell where my work ended and her work began. And that's huge because like, it's one thing if you're like, all right, go ham, go in this room and go do your thing. But it's another thing if you got, okay, I'm going to work on the upper half and you work on the bottom half. You can't have your stuff mismatching. Otherwise you'll see it. So mom taught me to faux finish exactly like her, to when clients wanted a particular piece of artwork on their wall, having to mimic that exactly because that's what they want, you know? What else did we do? Oh, I did a lot of handwriting stuff for her. So a lot of people that wanted quotes on walls and quotes down their hallways where their photos are and stuff like that. Did a ton of that. And I always joke because, sorry, it's super loud too. I can go turn it down. Did a lot of quotes because my handwriting, my mom, ironically, she's the one who made me like redo my homework if it wasn't nice enough. Like I had to erase and rewrite stuff until it was good. And now I see like, okay, mama was helping me get paid later on in life. So while it seemed awful to sit there, you know, as a kid, like, oh, why, you know, why do I have to do this? And then seeing how later on I got paid to write on people's walls and using my artwork as passion and to make people happy when they're in their homes every day. Like, that's just a really cool thing to have. And of course, if we want to tie it back into astrology, because I always do. Actually, let me go turn this down real quick. Do you kind of see how it's just trying to build up? Okay. So, astrology-wise, the way that the art translates in my chart and why this makes sense, Taurus and Libra are both ruled by Venus. Venus is love, beauty, the arts, poetry, painting. I have in my second house in astrology, you know, I always talk about the houses. The second house of my money, how I get paid, my income, and houses, I have Libra. So Libra being ruled by Venus, that's art. Libra being about union, balance, partnership, that's also the wedding photography. It's contractual, but it's unions, and that's Libra. And then I have a Taurus sun. So on top of all that in my second house, in Taurus, also ruled by Venus, I have the sun, I have Mercury, which is media and communication. It's also how we think, but let's talk about it in just a media perspective. So having Taurus, Mercury, and the sun in Taurus, and I just have this huge stellium that sits on my midheaven in my 10th house of career, of goals and ambition. So what that means and what that translates to is everything I put out has to be pretty. Everything has to be Venus. Everything has to be goddess-like. And because it sits on my midheaven with my 10th house of my career, I show it to the world. I publish it. It's publication. Mercury in Taurus actually sits on my 9th house, which is like higher learning and foreign travel and college type, but it's publication also, the Mercury right there with my midheaven. So it's funny because like you can almost, every time I ran a chart, every time I ran, any type of astrology for myself, as I was like learning all these different things, it was like, you're probably an artist, you're probably an artist, you're probably an artist. Every psychology test that I took, every Myers-Briggs or Enneagram, everything was always like, you're a writer, a painter, a creator. And so when I embraced like, yes, I'm an artist, I'm not just these other things that I was, like I've worked in finance, I've worked in insurance, I've worked in owned insurance brokerages and stuff like that, which are still very Taurus placements, because Taurus, aside from being ruled by Venus, it's the money house, and it's the hard work, and it's the home and the physical stuff, right? So having that Taurus stellium, and then it's like, well, no wonder, like I sold home insurance, I painted interiors of homes, I worked from home before it was ever even a thing, before like telecommuting was a thing. I was like 19, 20 years old working from home at a credit union when it was like just starting. So everything I've done, there's a huge relationship to the home. So that was really cool when I did astrology in my chart. So yeah, Taurus stellium and Libra in my second house all point to me being an artist. So I'm working on this piece right now, just adding. She said, if you don't believe me, just try it, Daddy.